And away we go. All right, stream is started. My light is a little brighter. Let me go to the YouTube thing, and it looks good there. All right. I guess I got an opening bit. Of course, you have one too with your bike thing.
Sure.
Do you have anything to say? I'll start with my thing. It's Monday, March 5th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is a Geek Nights Tech News Roundup.
Your favorite.
Every year around this time, I run out of Monday show ideas.
No, you run out of Monday show ideas.
Well, like 2 months before now.
About in late March, and then you always want to do Tech News Roundup on every Monday because you don't have any ideas.
I would just make Tech News Roundup the show.
Yeah, but we either managed to either come up with a bad idea or bail on every other Monday show.
Yep.
And then eventually, when it becomes March again, Rim is like so excited he can now have
it's a Tech News Roundup.
Guilt-free permission to do the Tech News Roundup once a year. So I don't want to say hit points mana because that clock does ring.
Yep.
It rings once a year. In fact, the last Tech News Roundup was a year and a day ago. There was, though, another episode last year that was not Tech News Roundup. It was all listeners submitted Tech News Roundup, so that one does not count.
That's true. That's true. But I still talk about it at the meta moment. I'm still thinking about changing the format of Monday, but
because you have no ideas for Monday shows. So if you like Monday show, you should help out Monday show by sending in some ideas.
Yeah. So before we get into the
Any
main bit,
idea is okay.
because there's no,
but I will probably shoot it down.
there is no news other than the tech news for obvious reasons. So I went skiing this weekend, and you might, if you heard me, I think I've occasionally said this on Geek Nights, but I tend to go to Hunter Mountain because it's the best skiing within like a day trip of New York City.
So
it's not great.
It's not that great.
But if you want to go there from Manhattan,
you always go there to the same mountain, and whenever other people talk about that mountain, they're like, "Man, that is crappy skiing."
Actually, no. So when I talk to other people about that mountain, they always say the same thing that I say, which is, that's the best mountain within a day trip of New York City. There are better places. The thing is,
you can't reach some Pocono mountain within a day.
Poconos mountains are bullshit. I've skied down there. That's some bullshit mountains. That place, everything in the Poconos is garbage as far as I'm concerned. But so there's Hunter Mountain and there's Windham Mountain, which is actually the same distance away.
Is it owned by a hotel?
No, I think it's spelled differently.
Okay.
It's just Windham Mountain. It's this other mountain. So I go to Hunter. I've never been to Windham, but I talk shit about Windham a lot, and I have for a decade.
You talk shit about a place you've never been, judging it without trying it.
Yeah. So now I've been to Windham, and now I know the fullness. Now, if I want to go a little further, like if I want real skiing, that's not a day trip. I could go to Killington, but even then, Killington's like
Isn't
a 5-hour drive.
Isn't that in Vermont?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
It's like a 5-hour drive, but Killington's kind of shit because if you drive just a couple more hours, you get to Bretton Woods and Loon and the good shit. Anyway, that's all orthogonal to this discussion. So I go to Hunter, and the reason I never went to Windham wasn't just that I went to Hunter first, but it was that when I read reviews or talked to people about stupid Hunter versus Windham Mountain, they'd always say that Hunter has better expert terrain, and the old timers ski there, and Windham is all just snowboarders smoking pot. That idea was reinforced when I take this bus out of Manhattan. That's how I get up there to ski usually. And what I always noticed over all these years, the last decade of going up there on this bus, is that there'd be a ton of people standing by the new Victory Theater in Manhattan in Times Square. And a bunch of buses would come up. And one by one, the buses are like, Hunter or Windham. Without fail, the people who got on the Hunter bus were old timers or people like me who had their own skis and were just standing there quietly and they're going to go up there and ski. And without fail, almost everyone who got on the Windham bus were first-time snowboarders going on some sort of package trip. Most of whom did not even have their own snowboards. And then I'd read that the lift capacity was low and the mountain's not that high and all the... So I finally had the displeasure of going to Windham Mountain, and all I've learned...
Why would you go to it?
Because Hunter Mountain and Bel Air and basically the entire region upstate had no power this weekend because of that giant blizzard.
So Windham Mountain was the only one with power?
Windham Mountain was the only one with power.
So the ski mountain was closed after a blizzard? Shouldn't that be when the ski mountain's open?
Oh, yeah. Do you know how much money Hunter Mountain lost out on because of that?
Can they get the money back from insurance?
I have no idea. It was basically a disaster for them to not be open on Saturday.
Okay.
Like, ridiculous disaster. So my bus just went to Windham instead.
Or maybe it wasn't a disaster because then no one died this way.
Yeah, so only 4 people have died at Hunter in like the last 5 years.
That was going to be the day they got saved by the power outage.
And as far as I can tell, one of them was that lady who fell off the ski lift, and the other 3 were people who were doing something they shouldn't have. But Windham Mountain lived up to every negative expectation I have ever encountered. It was literally a Simpsons Lisa open the envelope I gave you moment. So now, not only can I continue to talk shit about Windham, but I've been there and I have firsthand evidence that I was in fact 100% correct from the beginning. You can always judge a book by its cover and a rough, spotty reading of its reviews. So you got any non-tech news roundup before we get into the tech news roundup?
Not really.
Not really?
It's cold.
It's nice out.
It's cold.
It's pretty warm out.
Cold. It's going to snow on Wednesday. It's cold.
I think you're just aging at a preternaturally high rate.
Cold.
I mean, I would wear shorts if I was biking in this weather.
Nope.
Okay.
I got to buy more warm clothes. It's too cold.
Start wearing more leggings. All right. We got some people watching. We got a hello from the crowd. All right, let's get right into
the
this.
sad crowd with nothing better to do.
But anyway, before we get into the Tech News Roundup, it's time for Things of the Day. What do you got?
So way back at the first time we went to Gamer X, right? There was a demo going on in the room, the sort of like the Artist Alley equivalent, right? Of this cute little pixely game involving a spider webbing stuff up.
Oh yeah.
And that was like the most amazing tiny game I had ever seen. And this tiny game was made with this engine called Pico 8. And what Pico 8 is, if you don't know, is a video game engine basically simulating a video game console that never existed. It's like they made up a video game console that never existed that is very simple and pixely, somewhere slightly better than an Atari 2600, but nowhere near an NES sort of situation.
I assume without the chase the beam type nonsense.
Right. No, it's but it's modern programming wise, like with Lua and such. It's made to be very easy to program. You can make bright and colorful, simple games and other programs with it. And this really amazing spider game was I was shocked at how amazing this game was for the limitations afforded by the not actually a real physical console, the Pico 8. And the developer of that game was, I don't know how to pronounce their internet name, which looks like Bridges with the E removed.
Bridges Dev.
Right? But yeah, so ever since then, that game amazed me so much. I followed this person on Twitter, and they recently began tweeting links to their YouTube channel, which has basically nobody watching it.
I'm the 5th person to like this. 13 views, guys. Come on.
Right. And these are the most amazing and complete Pico 8 dev tutorials and also pixel art, right? Because you need both skills to make games in Pico 8. You need the pixel art skills and also the programming skills, but it's not very high levels of either one because it's low resolution and simple programming, right? So it's like you need skills, but not that much, right? But this person made that amazing spider game and has increased their skills 2 years worth in that time and is still maybe the Pico 8 master of the world as far as I can tell, because I don't know any other Pico 8 masters. So if you want to program amazing simple games for Pico 8 or just be amazed at someone else doing it, you need to watch this. This is like, even though I'm probably never going to make a Pico 8 anything, I still watched this whole video.
Dude, watching this already, they've convinced me to want to at least make the simplest possible
game.
Make
a Tetris or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, there's more than just this one. We're going to link to the one video, but check the whole channel and you can see a lot more.
This is good stuff.
I feel like it seems like they're continuing a whole series that's going to keep going, and so it'll be worth your while.
Yeah.
A great way to just learn programming in general, too.
So a lot of you are probably familiar with a song, "Hey Mrs. Robinson." Mrs. Robinson is a song that people know.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know anything about music, if you hear the song, you'll be like, "Oh, that song, the song that Dad and Grandpa always listened to." But it's a good song.
Scott always listens.
It's a good song, yeah. But I mean, a lot of our listeners are like a full generation younger than even us. So, do you know the story of how that song was written?
I don't know. Simon and Garfunkel made a song.
Or what it's about?
Vaguely.
So, on the Dick Cavett show.
Dick Cavett?
I've never seen this show. I don't know anything about
You don't know
this.
who Dick Cavett is?
Oh, no.
Incredibly famous person.
This is not... My interest in music focused mostly on composition and classical.
Dick Cavett wasn't a music show.
It was a late show, which I also don't care about.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Paul Simon was on the show, 1970. And this is a short segment where Paul Simon explains the origin of the song, Mrs. Robinson. And the origin of the song was actually not what I expected at all, and it's kind of funny. So I recommend you watch this. It's just a really good short interview, this short segment where Paul Simon describes how the song Mrs. Robinson was written, what it means, and you can take that information and do with it what thou wilt. In the Meta Moment, the book club book is Emily Wilson's translation of The Odyssey by Homer.
I'm doing a real bad job of continuing to read it after my finishing of the introduction.
Dude, I am so... As soon as you...
I keep doing other stuff instead.
Read the first chapter, like the first book of it, and then you'll just get into a cadence because it reads...
but I gotta actually... I'm doing all this other stuff, so I don't... Like, that is not... Like, it didn't even... Even when I had free time, like, what should I do now? There were 3 attractive PC games calling me, and I went and did that instead.
But following Telemachus through his interactions with
I find it surprising that you're really on the Telemachus boat and not...
Dude, when was the last time you read the Odyssey?
Odysseus boat.
The first half of the stupid book is just Telemachus going around like, where's my dad? What happened to my dad? And then it cuts back to, so where was Odysseus?
Yeah, it's the good part.
Yeah.
Cyclops.
The Telemachus...
Sirens.
The Telemachus stuff is pretty
Poseidon.
good. Because in this modern context...
Doesn't Telemachus meet up with Agamemnon or Agamemnon's wife at some point?
Well, right now he's hanging out with Menelaus. Well, actually, he just hung out with Menelaus.
Yeah, is it Menelaus? Isn't that Agamemnon's wife? Or something?
Menelaus is not Agamemnon's wife.
Who is Menelaus? That was someone important. I forget.
He's a king. I feel like I don't want to spoil your book at this point.
I knew who Menelaus was, and I forgot.
You'll find out a lot about him. What I forgot was I mixed up Calypso and Clytemnestra and Circe. Like the 3 of them, I got sorted out in my head now.
Circe's the witch. I know. No, the other 2, I don't know.
Calypso's the first goddess Odysseus was having sex with. And it's interesting that this translation, it's not so much Odysseus was trapped there longing for home while this goddess sexed him. It was more like... Eventually, Odysseus got bored with this and wanted to go home.
That's right.
Like, there's a subtle change in the tone of that conversation.
That's right.
I do feel like I would have... I feel like I would have stayed with Calypso, to be perfectly honest.
Of course.
Because half the other people talking about Odysseus...
But rich people also think they're going to stay on that island, and then they don't.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, look at... The reason the Telemachus part is so interesting, because he basically just goes to all these other kings or people like his father and sees what their deal is. And their deals are all pretty different. And some of them got it going on pretty well. And anyway, read this story if you've never read the Odyssey. Read this translation if the Odyssey bored you when you tried to read it a long time ago. And we'll talk about it in the GeekNights Book Club. I don't want to really spoil anything about the Odyssey if you don't know what's going on.
Spoil the Odyssey.
Yeah. I just love this
You're gonna
opening
spoil
bit.
the Bible next?
Athena's like, yo, Zeus, like, can you let Odysseus go home? And he's like, man, I want to let him go home. He's like the only smart human.
Should I spoil Dracula next?
But fucking Poseidon, just what are you going to do? What do you want me to do about Poseidon?
We can spoil some Frankenstein.
Like, half the stories of the Greek gods are, yeah, but Poseidon's being a little piss baby and I don't know what to do about it. What do you want me to do? I can't stop him. So, yeah. Anyway, you should read that book and the previous book club book, which is still on the GeekNights website, the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. If you haven't read that, you should read that first because I don't know when Scott's going to finish the Odyssey.
And other meta news, the most important meta news is that PAX East 2018 is ridiculously soon.
Oh my God, I got to book my train.
Less than a month-ish away.
I got to write this panel.
It is super duper soon. It is 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Thursday and Sunday are not sold out. You can totally go to those.
And as we've said, Thursday and Sunday at PAX East are some of the best bang for your buck of any gaming convention.
I think Thursday is just like a no-brainer to take off work and go for the one day.
Yeah.
Because you get a full PAX day, low attendance, and you get the keynote Q&A at the beginning.
But Sunday, if you can't take time off and you can't generally afford to go to cons, it's one day where you could see the entire expo hall, see some panels, play a bunch of games.
And see the Omegathon finale, but you'll get a few hours less than your other days of PAX.
Yep.
But you will see us on Sunday, won't you?
Yeah, 10:30
Because we got a really
a.m.
shitty panel time, but better than no panel.
Early in the morning at 10:30 a.m., Scott and I will be on Sunday, April 8th in the Arachnid Theater doing the fully evolved form of our 40 tabletop games you must play panel, which is not just clickbait. There's legit learning and content in here. The title is a trick.
Yeah, most articles that have clickbait titles and have clickbait content. We use a clickbait title to fill the seats and then have real content.
And what we learned from MagFest, because we've been shying away from clickbait titles for a while, holy shit, does a clickbait title fill the room?
It works.
Like, yeah.
Why wouldn't it work? I mean, you know it works. It's just, are you shameless enough to do it? And Rim is and Scott isn't. That's how it works.
I mean, remember we did our bad games panel? That filled the goddamn room.
Right.
And they all thought we were going to talk about like AVGN type stuff.
Nope.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll see you at PAX East. And also, even though it's 4 days, there's an open question. Will there be Wednesday pre-PAX gaming?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. So you could make PAX East a 5-day con for all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm. Also in the meta, you should go onto the internet and go... you're listening to this podcast already, or somehow if you're really sad
There's
watching
10
it
of
on
you
a
watching
YouTube,
the live stream.
If you're one of those sad 10 people watching this live, you should know that there's like a podcast. You can just get an MP3 and at least... And it's still sad to listen to us for an hour, but at least you could do it while doing something else. You don't have to look at our stupid faces. If you're listening to the podcast, well, if you're sadder than I hope you are, you can watch a live stream of this instead on YouTube. But also we have many websites and social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram and even a Facebook page, and we got a forum, and you should go. Because apparently you just love us that much. You should go on the internet to all the other places that we publish things and follow, subscribe, and whatever you do there, if that's something you really want to do. But if you take my advice, you'll unsubscribe, not listen, never come to us again, and go do something more valuable with your time, like play a good video game, or watch an erudite movie, or read the Odyssey, something like that.
So, I think it's time for the Tech News Roundup.
Mm-hmm.
So, I put these in a vague order. We're just going to go right through them. So, first off, the most important, the only tech news many of you care about right now is, can I buy a GPU yet?
We talked about this before, and you still can't buy a GPU yet.
Yep, people are still mining their magic beans. So, if you're trying to build a new computer, you're just effed. Buy like a used 770 and just wait.
I was so lucky in that my one computer was all busted, right? And then my HTPC was, doing fine. But I needed to buy a new computer. So I did, but I couldn't get a GPU for it. Even though the RAM was overpriced, I was willing to pay for the overpriced RAM.
Yep.
But because I heard a rumor.
Wait, why is RAM overpriced? I paid so little for my RAM.
How much was your RAM?
I got to go look again. All I know is I paid so little that I originally just put 64 gig in because why the fuck not? It was so cheap.
I got 32, but I've heard that actually the GPUs are not in shortage. It's that they can't make video cards because they don't have enough video RAM. I heard that. I don't know if that's true or not, though. It could be GPUs and RAM for all I know. But anyway, what was I saying? Right. But I was lucky that my HTPC had a 1070 in it that I had bought at a reasonable price way back. And so I just transferred that to my desktop. And now my HTPC just doesn't have a GPU in it, but that's fine because I rarely use the GPU in the HTPC.
I mean, my HTPC has a 460 in it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was thinking, I'll go get a 1050 to put in that HTPC now that I know it doesn't really need much more than that. Shit, them 1050s are overpriced too, those fuckers.
Yep.
So
I literally just lucked out and bought it. I basically bought my 1080 at the bottom possible price for a 1080.
Now here's the problem is you think, I can go get like a 950 or something, right? But here's the thing. The 10 series, Like the 1070 uses way less power, way less than the 680 that I was replacing. I actually sold that 680 to a listener because the 680 couldn't go in the HDBC. It used too much power and was too big. Yet the 1070 is orders of magnitude faster. Maybe not, but it's many, many percent faster, and it uses less electricity.
That's why I was like, hey, you want my 770? Because that has pretty much the same problem.
No, it uses too much power. It's not efficient at all. So there's your GPU knows fuck everyone with coins.
Yep.
If you're mining coins, get fucked.
Here's the news that's interesting from a bunch of perspectives. Apparently, a bunch of people were pirating features of Spotify.
Right, so if you get Spotify for free, which you can do, it's very limited. First of all, it's loaded with ads. You have to listen to ads after you listen to music.
Yep.
And you can only skip songs in a playlist like so many times if you use like the radio mode, and eventually it's like, it disables your skip button, and you have to actually like do something else to skip around and listen to different songs and whatnot, right? As it turns out, some of these features are implemented server-side and cannot be circumvented by if you're not paying for a Spotify account.
Yep.
But other features were implemented client-side and could be circumvented if you simply don't use the official Spotify client and use some evil pirated Spotify client.
So, like, here's a synthetic example. I'm not saying this is what they did, but this to give you some perspective. So, say I got in Spotify, there's the skip button, and when you hit that button, it makes like a call to a web service that says, "Hey, skip to the next song."
Mm-hmm.
So, while you clicked on something in the GUI, in the browser, it called an API somewhere in the sky for Spotify to do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did a thing. So, let's say that in the GUI, I just disable that button. Well, the user who's using Spotify, if I know enough information, I could just, with like curl or something, or basically any script, hit that API directly because it's accessible via the internet.
Yep.
It's on the internet. The client's connecting to it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It probably isn't like cryptographically secure, independent of that client.
Nope.
So, I mean, sometimes they are. I've seen APIs that are secure in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, if the API works and you just disabled the GUI, anyone can hit that API and make it do its thing.
So Spotify detected who was doing this. They saw that like free accounts were skipping songs rapidly or making patterns of API calls that were not API call patterns that you would see from the official Spotify client. And for those people, they sent them a letter saying, or email saying, hey, we see that you're using a pirated non-official Spotify client there. We disabled your Spotify account. Use the real Spotify client again, and we will re-enable you. I solved this by just paying for Spotify.
Yeah,
but,
I ended up paying for Amazon instead, but it's equivalent.
The Amazon one does not is good for the. So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I had the Amazon one and Spotify, and what I was doing is I was uploading music to Amazon because you can't upload music to Spotify really, and using Spotify to get new music, and thus I would never need to get new MP3s ever. All right, because new music from Spotify, I can stream it all. My existing library of MP3s from back in the day is 100% on Amazon. I'm good. What happened is I then paid for YouTube Red to get rid of ads on YouTube. YouTube Red comes with Google Play Music.
Oh shit, I forgot it does.
So YouTube Red...
I just started paying for YouTube Red like a week ago.
YouTube Red gives you free Google Play Music as like they're the same thing basically. In fact, I heard a Google executive say that they consider YouTube Red to be a music service because it also comes with a YouTube Music app that lets you... They use YouTube as a Pandora or whatever. Like it has the app lets you like watch YouTube in audio only mode and stuff. Like, anyway, but yeah, it gets rid of ads on YouTube, and the Google Play Music also sort of makes the Amazon Music redundant because you can upload all your music there. So I uploaded all my music to Google, and then I stopped uploading it to Amazon. I stopped paying for that because the Google one, that way I'm not paying for 3 things, I'm paying for 2 things.
Yep.
Because I wasn't going to stop paying for YouTube Red, right? So now I use Google Play Music, which is free with YouTube Red, for uploading all my MP3s to the cloud so I can listen to them anywhere. And I use Spotify for streaming music because really the music selection on Google Play Music of streaming is not the greatest. However, the other scary contender is Apple Music, which might be a contender for Spotify, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's so much stuff I'm used to on Spotify I don't want to give up. But the Apple Music is actually really good and works with my Apple Watch and does fancy stuff and has a great selection. And so maybe for the streaming one, I did the free demo of Apple Music, and I was like, oh, not bad, but it couldn't really completely kill Spotify, so I stuck with it.
Now, more interesting, going down to this layer of there are, like, you can just do Spotify in a web browser.
Sure.
Or you have an app on a phone. The more interesting question is around, like, with the web, there's this fundamental contract that you can use any web browser to hit any URI and interact with it, and it's on the server side to handle any sort of authorizations and restrictions and walls and whatever. So I can use whatever browser I want. I can use whatever client I want. Should the similar principle be applied to services like Spotify?
I mean, technologically, but also they emailed you and they shut your account down, so what you can do about it?
True. But at the same time, well, I mean, one, they really should secure the APIs themselves.
How do you implement a no skip button API on the server side?
I can think of some ways to do that.
While still allowing people to say double click on a song to play it if it's, a completely different song.
Yeah. I mean, the details of how I would implement that are pretty too much for this show.
Uh-huh.
But the real answer is that
it's not easy.
Well, it's definitely some sort of risk-based security in that the risk of users doing this doesn't cost them much. And it's easy for them to take a non-technological means to highlight the people who are causing the problem and force them to start paying. Or at least enable them to start paying. But I guess, is there a future place for a right to use your own client for a service, and it's up to the service to provide the API-driven rules of engagement? What's the line between a website and an app and a service and a web and all these things?
I don't have a moral problem with it. I'm just saying it happens.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. I'm very interested that there are people who spent the time to figure this out and went so far as to make the pirate clients. So in some other news, there are a bunch of LTE vulnerabilities hitherto unknown to the world that are now well known to the world.
This affects everyone with a phone.
Yep.
Everybody.
I didn't read into the details, but basically...
Android, iPhones, you all got LTE. Everybody.
Yeah, if you're on an LTE network, I think it says 10 attacks were announced by this paper. Ranging from things like snooping on text messages, tracking individual users' locations, and more funnily, spoofing emergency alerts. The only hope I have is that if these were that easy to execute, people would already be executing them in New York City. Because that would be the most bang for your buck in terms of like sending a spoofed emergency alert. And I have not yet seen a spoofed emergency alert. But apparently, based on what I'm reading in the summary on Slashdot, the only real barrier to entry to using these is you need to spend a few $1,000s on a software-defined radio. As in a radio device that can be modulated by software purely as opposed to having some sort of hardware limitation on where it can transmit. I don't want to get into what that means because it's kind of complicated, but we've talked about this on GeekNights a long time ago about how a purely software-controlled transmitter is very dangerous to a lot of existing infrastructure because a lot of existing infrastructure in America relies heavily on the fact that consumers cannot get their hands on radios that can transmit certain kinds of information on certain frequency bands. And software radios sidestep all of that. So, yeah, the only thing you can do, unless you want to exploit these things, is treat LTE...
Turn LTE off on your phone.
Yeah, and I'm sure 3G is just so secure. The only real thing you can do is the thing you should already be doing. Treat LTE data transfers like they are a completely open network. If you're not using TLS on anything that you're sending or receiving, then assume that people are reading it.
Get some VPN on your phone, yo.
Don't use SMS for anything you care about because that's just clear text. That is like the most trivial exploit. And in terms of the location tracking, if you actually care about not being tracked because you're doing something shady, put your phone in airplane mode before you do the shady thing. Like that's all you can do right now. So in some other news that's actually really good news, YouTube
they made a bunch of changes recently.
And
these changes coincided with the time that they demonetized all because they before remember there was a news about how they were going to demonetize people whose accounts weren't big enough.
Yep.
Well, they actually that was just a warning when that news happened, that they were telling people they were going to get demonetized. Now they're demonetized.
Yep.
But then they released a bunch of new features to go along with that demonetization. I think they were probably all in the same patch maybe or something.
Yeah, now I'm pretty okay with the scope of the demonetization. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but the GeekNights channel is way, like my personal YouTube channel, way above the minimum.
Mine was not. I got demonetized, which is actually good because now life is a lot easier.
But for a channel that is moderately popular and way above the line, I'm making under $50 a month.
I mean, even people who are big on YouTube don't make good money unless you're mega big.
Yeah. So the people, my best estimate, the people who were below the line were making maybe $12 a month tops. Reality, you can't expect a platform like YouTube to subsidize the monetization of very small content, because the real problem, the real thing they were trying to address, is that a lot of small channels, not the majority, but enough, were like right-wing Nazi racist bullshit. You can't risk ads appearing on that, and you can't have humans vet tens and hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels that have 18 subscribers. But anyway, the change that's good, that's really good, that no one should disagree with, that YouTube added, is they've added live captioning. So a live stream will have pretty good live closed captions, including, theoretically, this stream right now. I'm going to see if I can watch them. I don't know if I can watch them on the special viewer I got here for the live stream. But they added it, and I looked at our previous 2 live streams, and the captions are shockingly good. Despite the fact that me and Scott talk very fast and talk over each other and use a lot of proper nouns, it has that shit down, except it seemed to skip every time we said the word fuck. It just skipped right over it reliably.
Yeah, they added some other features, but I forget what they were right now, and only one of them, other ones besides the captions, was interesting, but the captions are the biggest one.
Yep,
right?
now what's extra good
this
too.
Means finally, right, it's like there have been so many things over the years, like, do we pay for someone to transcribe GeekNights? You tried many things, and there's never been good results.
Well,
we really, really wanted to get GeekNights into text form so that people who are hard of hearing could absorb it, and now we finally have a way that is freer and better than all the previous ways, short of paying $1 zillion for someone to actually do it by hand.
Yep. Now, it looks like we still don't have live captions, but the other part of this is that the captions that come after the fact, because our live streams all have captions like the next day. I clicked on them all to check. They're so good that I don't need to pay anymore, because as you might recall,
they're not perfect, but you know what? If you otherwise can't hear, they actually mostly accurately represent what we are saying.
So, one, we started crowdsourcing captions, and some listeners stepped up and actually made captions for some of our lectures, and they're really good. I'm really thankful for that. I also took a bunch of the Patreon money for GeekNights, and I bought professional captions for several of our videos. And that was many hundreds of dollars each. They were really good. Their turnaround was really fast. The YouTube captions are good enough to where I think we're just going to let those go. What is interesting is one of the companies I paid to do this actually messaged me and thanked me for paying them, because they said that basically that entire industry is completely disappearing as AI-driven captions like YouTube just do it automatically.
I mean, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm pretty okay with that. So I feel like the next accessibility frontier for GeekNights, I might try paying someone to translate one of our popular lectures into Spanish. That's something that is not happening automatically.
Is that the top language, though, that we're trying to reach?
I feel like that is the top language that has a Spanish.
Not to downplay Spanish, but it's just we should definitely go for. I mean, we go to all the languages if we could, right?
Based on my experience with,
we should look at the demographics of people visiting the videos and go in order from top to bottom.
Well, the demographics of people visiting the videos is all English-speaking countries. I feel like it's a catch-22 there.
Right, but I'm talking are we getting a lot of people from China? We can go Chinese. That's more,
So I'll tell you right now,
are we blocked in China?
Probably. We're probably blocked in Thailand too. If they ever saw what we said about the king.
Can Hong Kong get to us?
Probably not.
What about Japan, Korea, India? There's a lot of countries out there with a lot of languages.
So, in terms of underserved markets in video game design specifically. I feel like there is the biggest interest gap between people who want this content and not that content not being provided for them in Spanish. Partly based on the fact that Pillow Fight, the company that I'm slightly involved with our friends, released a game. Spanish language was a day one like launch thing. And the game is set in like the Cuban community in Florida, and there's
makes sense.
There was a big response to that because a lot of games don't include Spanish language support.
Nope.
There are a lot of kids who would probably love to watch a lecture on how to design games in Spanish.
Slay the Spire has a lot of languages supported. Just want to say.
Good news. I still got to play it. I'm going to play it this weekend, I think. But yeah, the other feature they added that's concurrent to this that's interesting is the live stream right now. If you're watching this, there are people chatting in our live stream. There's 17 people in there right now.
So sad.
So what they're also doing is they're keeping that metadata. So if you watch one of our live streams of Geek Nights, the chat will update live like it did when the stream itself was live. That's a minor thing, but that's, I think, an important thing for the future and for archives, because imagine being able to go back to like on Twitch in the future and watch the Overwatch championships from 100 years ago and see the actual chats in stream from 100 years ago. That's the kind of cool stuff. Like it's not an important feature that many of you care about now, but you're going to be really thankful for that feature in a decade when you watch some old YouTube video and see these vintage chats.
All right, so here's a news that's related, but Rim doesn't have it over there.
Yeah?
So what's going down, there's something going down on Twitch right now, right? There's this guy, I don't know his name, I forgot his name because I don't have the article up, and he's streaming Fortnite. He used to be a big Halo esports champion, but now he's streaming Fortnite, and he has a zillion subscribers, and he stands to make like $250K, I think, in subscriber monies this month or something.
Is this the disrespect guy?
No.
Okay.
This is actually an okay guy.
Okay. Because I was about to say.
As far as I know, he's an okay guy. But what's happening is people are suspecting that he doesn't actually have that many legitimate subscribers, even though he didn't necessarily, as far as we know, do anything awful. Apparently, this is the story that is probably what's going on. So if you have a Twitch Prime account, Amazon Prime plus Twitch, you get some Fortnite skins and stuff as like a gift right now. So people on eBay and such are buying and selling Amazon, credentials to people with Prime that have not, because a lot of people get Amazon Prime that are not using Twitch, right?
Yeah.
And if you get their credentials, link up, get a Twitch Prime, you can get those skins, right? And you can just load up on skins and all kinds of stuff for Fortnite if you can manage to get lots of Amazon Prime accounts. So, it's not like kids who play Fortnite have Amazon Prime accounts.
Well, I think there's an article on Newsweek about this.
Maybe. But apparently what's happening is those accounts that are like bought and sold, a Twitch Prime account comes with a once a month free subscription to any Twitch channel. So every month I go and subscribe.
So are all these channels subscribing to this one person?
Every month I go and subscribe to the Twitch channel of my choosing, and I lose nothing. I just click on a Twitch channel, and that person gets $2.50, and Twitch gets $2.50 from Amazon, which is their own money, I guess. But yeah, it's like all I have to do is click, and I can give $2.50 to one Twitch channel per every month. Like in the AGDQ months, I'll choose. That's like 2 months out of the year. I'll choose them. Other months, I'll choose whoever I'm watching the most or someone I know or whatever, right? But yeah, these bots or whatever that are like loading up on Fortnite skins. It's like, well, they got free subs attached to them. They're all subbing to like this dude and also other people. And they can see like a flood. This guy can see like a huge flood of subscriptions coming in, like hundreds and hundreds at a time. Because, he's got the auto notifiers so he can respond and thank people for subscribing. It's like, there'll just be a flood of them. Like, oh my God, I just got 1,000 subscriptions all at once. What the hell? Right? And now if that happens to him, he stands to gain $2.50 for each one of those. But this Twitch Prime Fortnite promotion stands to end soon, in a month or so.
Oh.
So people are suspecting that at the end of the month, this guy and others who are also been unvictimized by this or stand to lose a shit ton of subscribers and all those Amazon Prime things just stop, right? Because they're subscribed for 1 month, and when the month ends, like the subscriber count supposedly would just drop like a rock. So this is really, really interesting. We'll see if they actually get paid out or not.
Well, yeah, the fundamental question here from a technology standpoint is that whenever you set up a system where one party at no cost to them can give a boon that has some monetary value to an unrelated account or person, there will be massive, immediate, programmatic exploitation of that vacuum. It's like gifting arbitrage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like that has to have been baked. Like, people who designed these systems had to have assumed this would happen on purpose, hoping that it would drive subscriptions. I can't believe anyone would be so naive as to not expect this kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, the guy looked up the guy. The guy's name is Ninja.
Yeah, I found him. The problem is there's this like piece of shit streamer who's in all the news for being racist.
Yeah, I don't know if the Ninja guy is a good guy. I don't know anything about this guy, but he's just in the headline for this larger story.
But yeah, Ninja kept popping up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the guy. Anyway, I'm organizing our news. So next news. You might have noticed there was a Twitter bot purge. So Twitter has a problem in that basically there are thousands and thousands and thousands of what are literally Russian like psyops bot accounts tweeting nonsense to try to destabilize the American democracy. Like this, we know that's not even under dispute.
Also, other democracies.
Oh yeah, but other democracies too. But I'm focusing on the one that's really affecting my day-to-day life right now.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a new problem. We've known for a long time that there are a lot of bot accounts on Twitter, and that it's a big problem.
I wonder if Russians were sending those all caps emails too to
I would
dads.
I would not be surprised at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the deal is Twitter refuses to do anything reasonable about this. And I think the main reason for that, this is pure speculation.
Then the numbers of how many accounts there are will go way down.
I suspect, in my personal opinion, that a huge percentage of all the traffic on Twitter is bots.
Mm-hmm.
Bots tweeting at bots.
Yep.
But then the side problem is that out of this bot churn, there's a surprising number of humans who, I think the way I want to describe this is, 10 years ago, I would say the problem is, there are things that don't pass the Turing test. Like, will this system pass the Turing test? Today, there are people who fail to administer the Turing test.
Mm-hmm.
It's like its own reverse Turing test. There are human beings who look at one of these like Russian bot accounts and think it's a legitimate person.
People have always fallen. They see a website and they think that's a real download link.
Yep.
People can't tell real from fake. They don't have that skill. It's very dangerous in a world. In a world of deadly poison. It's like, here, I got a better example.
Yeah.
In a field of mushrooms, you better know which ones are poison and which ones aren't, right?
Yep.
And we walk around and take for granted that we can just tell by looking at it.
No, dude,
that's a
my
delicious...
filter, I walk around, I assume that everything I ever see on the internet is both malware and a lie.
Right, but the point is we can walk around the mushroom field that is the internet and eat tons of mushrooms without ever getting poisoned. Most people just get poisoned immediately and die.
But it amazes me that like you, me, or Emily will like look at a website and be like, that is obviously a scam. And then there'll be a person, another human being who is ostensibly as intelligent as us will look at the exact same website and say, looks legit, and put their credit card number in.
They were not cooked in the fire. We have a great privilege of having been cooked in internet fires.
So
most people do not have.
What Twitter did is they purged a huge number of like specifically identified bot accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting about this is that there was a huge outcry from Twitter users over the loss of all these legitimate people.
Are you sure there weren't bots?
So here's what happened.
That were doing the complaining also?
I'm going to summarize what happened.
Were the bots also the ones complaining about the legitimate users?
The people who were complaining were far-right white supremacists.
Are you sure
Nazis.
they weren't just also bots that are right supremacist bots?
No, we're pretty sure. There's a lot of people who are actually known people.
Okay.
It seems like what happened is the real Nazis and the real Republicans noticed overnight that they lost thousands and thousands and thousands of followers because a big percentage of their followers were these Russian bots.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the outcry. If you see any news about people like talking about this Twitter purge, every one of these accounts, with few exceptions, was a known bot account. And now there's an outcry by people who are mad that these bot accounts are gone. But those people pretty much are almost exclusively far right-wing people. And while these bots were also trying to target left-wing politics, it seems like on average, people who are more liberal either didn't notice subscriber drops or realized they were bots and did not thus complain. Mm-hmm. The real problem is that these bot accounts are still ubiquitous, not just on Twitter, but all across social media. It is obvious which ones are bots, and yet very few entities are choosing to do anything about it. And I feel like the underlying story is that this kind of information warfare is real, is dangerous, and the U.S. in particular is doing almost nothing to combat it.
I got a good solution. Here's how it works, right? Everyone's Twitter account is temporarily suspended.
All right.
Everyone who comes and pays a visit to Judge Scott and gets judged by Judge Scott to be worthy of having a Twitter account has their account reinstated. The end. Problem solved.
Get out. I feel like spy agencies need to hire the kinds of people who aren't tricked by phishing and just use them to solve a lot of these problems. So in some other news, this particular news is not a danger to you because there's no way it'll come to pass, but this is the kind of thing that comes up perennially and generates...
I usually hear this kind of news in the UK.
Yeah, but it happened in the U.S. in Rhode Island, of all things. Basically, Democrats in Rhode Island put forth a bill. Now, before you think that what I'm about to say is crazy or novel, bills like this have been coming up in American state-level politics since I was in middle school. And we would like organize around writing campaigns to stop them. But the gist is Rhode Island, the Democrats here, but it is a bipartisan bill as far as I can tell, want to force all ISPs that provide internet in the state to block, quote, sexual content and offensive material.
So Wikipedia?
And then anyone who wants to access that material can pay a fee of $20.
Where does that money go? The state?
That money goes to a state slush fund that I guess will be used to fight
they're trying to make
like
a porn
human
tax?
trafficking or something.
They're trying to make a porn tax?
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way this would pass muster. The Supreme Court, even the current...
Right, people always talk about freedom of speech when like Twitter blocks them, but it's like, that's not government censorship.
No, this is government censorship.
This is the First Amendment. This one.
Yeah, Twitter blocking a Russian bot account. You want to complain about
First Amendment? This is it. Here it is.
Yep.
Finally, you found, here's your, go attack this. We know you love porn.
This is the kind of thing that you don't even really need to fight because these are the fights that we win by default. Like, I am not afraid that this is going to become law, and even with the conservative-leaning Supreme Court of the United States, I am pretty confident this would not pass even the most minimal muster.
No. This is not going anywhere. But yeah. But here you go. Here's your First Amendment battle that's actually happening.
Yep. So here's a kind of interesting story. The headline was...
Oh, this story is huge, this one.
23,000...
And complicated.
HTTPS, so TLS Certificates, axed, meaning like destroyed, shut down, revoked or whatever, after the CEO emails the private keys to someone.
Okay, so
there's so much going on here.
There's so much going on here. I've tried to read it and like figure it all out, and... Here's probably, I'm going to just say it right out, probably incorrect, but this is what I've gathered so far. There was a company called Symantec, right? Is Symantec? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they were issuing certificates to people. They did a really shitty fucking job. Really shitty fucking job. Another company, DigiCert, who also was in the certificate business, right, bought Symantec. There was another company... called what's the third company called?
So we got DigiCert, we got Symantec.
What's the other one?
I'm looking for it. Trustico. I'd never heard of before, but
yeah, Trustico was also issued certificates, but at one time issued certificates on behalf of Symantec, right? So it's like they were issuing Symantec certs to people, right? But they're not now. They're just doing their own certificates.
Yep.
The DigiCert bought up Symantec. The people at Trustico contacted DigiCert and were like, hey, Symantec were doing a really shitty job. A lot of their certificates are compromised. Please revoke them.
Yep.
DigiCert was like, no, we're not going to revoke those certs, right? Because what basically would happen is those people, instead of just, renewing their certs when the time came and giving more money to DigiCert, would maybe, perhaps buy, I don't know why, but they didn't do it.
Yep.
So the CEO of Trustico took the private keys. I don't know if these are the private keys on their side or the private keys on the client side, but
yep. And also full disclosure, as much as we both know about TLS, I still have to look it up.
Know. But he emailed private keys to DigiCert, which means, well, we got to revoke these fucking things now.
Yep.
Right?
So.
But why did Trustico have private keys? They're not supposed to have those. How did they even get them? I don't understand what the fuck is going on.
Well, kind of
here.
like here's an analogy that's simpler. Let's say you lost your password to some bullshitty website.
Let's say you call a locksmith. Why did the locksmith keep a key to your fucking house?
Yeah, or very specific. This happens. Have you ever tried to reset your password on a website?
And they send you your password in text?
Usually they'll say, all right, set a new password, because we can't give you your old password. If they can give you your old password,
their system is way insecure and awful.
They have just told you, we are the worst at everything forever. Do not trust us.
Right. So, but here's the thing: is that the reason that when you get an SSL cert, you need to go to one of these companies to basically prove who you are, because not only does it encrypt, if it was just encryption, we could all just make our own keys and not even give a shit.
I can self-sign a certificate right now.
Right. The reason we have these authorities that sign certs is because we want to make sure that whoever has the certificate for yourbank.com is actually somebody from yourbank.com. Otherwise, Scott can go make a website, yourbank.com, and make the little green thing light up saying, this is totally yourbank.com, lol. Whereas right now, as if I was to hack your DNS and make you go to Scott's server instead of yourbank.com server, I can't do anything, and it's going to have a red lock up there, and you're going to know, hey, this is a fake mybank.com. You're not fooling me into log it in, right? So that's why you need these third-party companies. But if these third-party companies are not trustworthy and start issuing certs to everybody and their mother, this is how we get problems. And here we have an example of that problem actually happening. It's not just a hypothetical thing. It happened.
And part of this is there's a lot of
23,000 websites compromised.
There are a lot of competing interests here. On one hand, setting up TLS certs with a real chain of trust is a giant pain in the ass.
Yep.
That causes a lot of friction. And beardos will complain I don't want to have to get permission from someone else to run a website.
There's a website called Let's Encrypt that lets you do it way easy. We're using it for our forum and it works great. It's just not, it's just clear that this is not maximum trust.
If I went to my bank and my bank had a Let's Encrypt, I'd be a little dubious of that, because Let's Encrypt as a company, I don't necessarily know how well they vet the use of certificates. Mm-hmm. For example, if my bank has their certificate with their private key, however they've set it up, if the private key is compromised such that some nefarious actor or some disgruntled employee from the issuing authority could sign another certificate that was just as valid, then the bank is hosed and people can steal all my biz.
Yep.
So adding friction to the process by making people prove who they are and having costs and fees in the transactions to prevent spam attacks on these systems.
You'll notice that some websites in the corner of the browser appear more secure than others. They have even more green shit up there.
That usually just means you pay more money.
10 pictures of locks and a picture of a vault and a picture of a security officer and the word secure in green letters.
Yeah.
Right? All that shit means they paid more money and they went through more hassle to prove how good they are.
Yep. It is a hassle. So there's all these competing interests, but the reality is that the trust infrastructure of the internet is still run pretty much exclusively by private companies who have a lot of deep failings. Mm-hmm. And when there's a problem, DigiCert's doing a pretty good job as far as I can see. Companies can fix it, but you have to be able to revoke certificates. But people are very leery of revoking certificates because that breaks things on the internet.
If they had revoked them, that means 23,000 websites that were green would suddenly be red, and all those customers would start complaining, what the fuck? And they just email everyone. It's like recalling a product, only the pain in the ass is harder than just buying something.
Yep.
Or it's like shipping something back and getting a new, I've had my fire extinguisher recalled twice. It was real easy to get a new one and mail back the old one. It'd be a lot harder to go redo all my SSL bullshit. That's not what I want to do. Right.
And imagine if you run like a giant website with like load balancers, which the interaction between TLS and load balancers is something that particularly pains me.
Anyway.
Yeah, so anyway, this is all fascinating.
How much time have we gone through here?
We can wrap this up pretty soon. Let's
Okay.
blow through a few of the rest. So, brief news. In case you probably assume this is true, but this is the evidence that it is true. PC sales are dropping like 2.7% year over year.
Yeah, I think most people, use their phone, their tablet, and their smart TV or whatever. Pretty much does everything that they do if they're not creating content or playing PC games. So
Desktop PCs are dead unless you're an expert.
People who are just consumers of content that are not high-end, GPU needing video games that can't be played on consoles are not buying desktop PCs. They're getting rid of the one they got, and that's it.
And even more, people who need a real, in quotes, computer, more and more are just buying a laptop.
Right? Or, a lot of people, Nintendo Switch is real popular. PS4 is pretty popular.
Yeah.
It's like... and
Roku boxes.
I tweeted the other week, like, hey, maybe the GPU shortage is really just like, maybe Nintendo is Satoshi and they started the coin mining because they knew this would happen in the long game. And now people are buying consoles because, well, can't get a GPU, so I need to play some games.
But yeah, I feel like the future of desktop PCs, which we've predicted before, is going to be just the old definition of the word workstation.
Yeah.
They are workstations. They are specialized tools, elegant weapons from a more civilized age. And you're only going to have one.
They're going to be used for people who need to make things like programming or digital art, use some Adobe Photoshop for real.
Or play games.
Yep.
That are not, that people who want to play PC games is a thing as opposed to console games.
Right. My only concern is that if you grow up with a tablet or an iPhone, and the reason I am a creator of digital things is because I grew up using a desktop PC and learned how to program and all that stuff with it. If you don't grow up with a dangerous weapon, then when are you going to learn to use the dangerous weapon?
Yeah.
Are people just like, when all the people right now who Photoshop things are dead, is anyone else going to learn Photoshop?
So I've been interacting just through like coworkers and people I know with like kids who are in the single digit ages right now. I do not know what generation they are, but they are so alien to millennials and Generation X that they're like a different race of beings. 9-year-olds today on YouTube are shockingly sophisticated at YouTube.
Yeah, but how are they at, writing in C?
I think what is going to keep, because I think desktop PCs will continue to serve the things that I care about for the rest of my life. And the reason for that is that PC gaming is actually growing. And while it's not, while it is not completely filling the gap that's left by like muggles using desktops, it's definitely growing, meaning that the PC market will shift more toward that specialized market, meaning PCs will be more like the things that I want. But two, the other thing that's driving PC usage, other than like companies still and like corporate use, is kids doing media production, mostly around live streaming.
That's what I'm saying is you gotta, people who are doing production are getting them, but what about other people?
But that's it. The kids, like
everyone's producing stuff. Everyone's making videos, so everyone needs desktops.
Dude, I think
I see most people making videos on their phones and shit.
Yeah, but as soon as they get that taste, I've seen this progression of like 6, 7, 8-year-olds, small sample size, but they get a taste of it from their phone. Then they want to make a real live stream. And as soon as they need to stream the video game they're playing, they need a computer and OBS and all this shit. And they are figuring it out on their own the same way we did. So that generation, I think, is going to fill in the gap and keep a healthy workstation ecosystem. But non-workstation PC use, I think, is going to literally disappear. So this is just a nice, interesting, brief stat. Flash, if we're trying to get rid of it.
Didn't Flash die a while ago?
Yeah, but doesn't Crunchyroll still use it? Like,
barely, I don't know.
I periodically have to do some bullshit to make Crunchyroll work on like
I don't
the
notice
HTPC.
because like all the browsers now, they like include like a Flash thing, so you don't need to go to adobe.com and get it.
Yeah.
It just sort of, you open up Chrome and you go to a website and it just works, and it's like, okay, so.
So apparently in early 2018, only 8% of Chrome browsers hit a Flash site on a daily basis.
Right, because once iOS decided we're not having Flash, then all the websites removed Flash, so now no one there's not a lot of Flash left.
So
and the HTML5 video killed off a lot of Flash too.
the only website I still go to that has Flash seems to be Crunchyroll. They'd better remove it because it's going to be disabled by default in July of 2019 in Chrome, and it's going to be removed completely in December of 2020 from Chrome.
Sounds good.
But I think that's the only site I got left.
I'm worried. The only sad thing about the removal of Flash is that we've got like 10 plus years worth, maybe even 20 years worth of Flash games. And you might think of Flash games like tiny, crappy games, but it's like, there's like a lot of worthwhile art that was created in Flash that has value, and it will not be accessible. Think about like how many games are on Congregate, or like even before, like the original Homestar Runner. It's like, even though we don't want Flash in our browsers, for actual everyday doing stuff.
We need like a museum Flash emulator.
We need to preserve the content that happened to sadly be created in Flash. It is very, very valuable to the history of the internet and the human race.
Now, what is interesting?
And our Western civilization.
What is very interesting, remember when we mentioned we were talking about Name That Beard because of that Rasputin song?
That's Flash. Gotta preserve Name That Beard.
A huge number of old Flash games and old Flash content are actually archived to some degree on YouTube.
Right, but you can't archive, say, Homestar Runner on YouTube. It's an interactive experience. You'd have to, like, make a exe that is homestarrunner.exe that has the whole site. And, like, that changed over time, too. So you'd have to have, like, an exe that, like, lets you choose your date and time of, like, which version of the...
Well, that is true.
I don't even know if all of that was preserved by the brothers' chats. That's just one website.
But a pale imitation of a lot of those things, like...
What about that game where like the dinosaur runs to the right and there's lava coming?
Even if some of those games are not playable in the near future, in the very least, there are plenty of people who are going, like, because there's so much pressure to have a unique and novel live stream, a lot of live streamers are finding ancient Flash games, playing them and live streaming them, and those videos, while they are not the complete experience, you can at least watch someone play that game. And I found a live stream that is literally someone just playing the entirety of Name That Beard.
Yeah.
In a browser. They just live streamed it. Yep.
If you want to stream Flash games, that is a noble endeavor, but it is not as good as actually having the Flash games.
And with that, I think we have concluded our Spring 2018 Tech News Roundup.
Good, because I hunger.
Wow, there were a lot of people watching this one. Stop.